He didn't make a scene about it. That's the thing nobody talks about. There was no dramatic conversation, no ultimatum, no night when he finally said what had been building for years. He just got up one morning, made coffee, and went to work. Same as the day before. Same as the day before that. From the outside, his life looked fine. Good job. House with a decent yard. Kids who were mostly okay. Wife who was there, but not really there. You know what I mean. That particular kind of distance that doesn't have a name. Where you're in the same room and somehow completely alone. His friends had started divorcing, one by one, like dominoes. And every time it happened, there was this moment at the bar afterward, where the guy would lean in and say, "Man, I should have done it years ago. I feel free." And he'd nod. Say the right things. Drive home. But late at night, sitting in the kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed, he'd ask himself a question he couldn't quite answer. Is staying the right thing? Or is it just the easier thing to avoid? He wasn't sure anymore, and that uncertainty had been living in his chest for so long it had started to feel like furniture. If you know that feeling, this video is for you. Not to tell you what to do, not to judge what you've already done, but to hand you something that might make the weight of that question a little clearer. Here's the thing about that question. Should I stay or should I go? That nobody tells you. It's the wrong question. Not because it doesn't matter. It does. But most men who are asking it aren't actually asking about their marriage. They're asking something underneath that. Something they can't quite get to. And that's why the question never gets answered. Because they're digging in the wrong place. What they're really asking is this. Who am I now? The man who made that commitment 15, 20 years ago, he had a certain picture of how his life would go. He believed in things a certain way. He wanted things a certain way. And somewhere between then and now, without any single dramatic moment, the picture changed. Life didn't turn out quite the way he imagined. The relationship didn't either. And he's standing in the gap between what he expected and what actually is. And he doesn't know if staying means he's strong, or if it just means he's given up on wanting more. That gap is exhausting to live in. And here's what makes it worse. The culture around him has a very clear answer. Leave. Start over. You deserve to be happy. Life is short. And those words aren't wrong exactly, but they slide past something important. They treat commitment like it's a feeling, like it's something you maintain as long as it feels worth maintaining. The moment it stops feeling good, the logic says, you're done. You've honored the feeling as long as you could. But somewhere in his gut, he knows that's not quite right either. He just doesn't have the words for why. That's where a Roman emperor comes in. Not because history is a lesson, but because Marcus Aurelius sat in that same gap and left something behind that finally names what the gut already knows. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome for 19 years. Not a quiet 19 years either. Wars on the northern border that never really ended. A plague that killed millions. Political pressure from every direction. And at home, a wife the whole empire whispered about. He knew what they were saying. He wasn't naive. This was a man who spent his nights writing private notes to himself about how to think clearly, how to act well, how to be the kind of person he actually wanted to be. He wasn't hiding from anything, and he never divorced her. Now, here's what most people assume when they hear that. They think, okay, politics. He couldn't divorce her. It would have been messy, bad optics for an emperor. But read what he actually wrote. In his private journals, notes he never intended anyone to see. He described Faustina as someone he was genuinely grateful for, not performing gratitude, not pretending. The man writing those words had no audience. It was just him, alone, telling himself the truth. So what did he know that most men today don't? He understood something about commitment that the modern world has almost completely lost. He understood that commitment is not a contract between two feelings. It's a decision about who you are. It's not, I will stay as long as this works. It's, I have decided what kind of man I am going to be. And that man doesn't walk away when things get hard. There's a line in the Meditations where he writes about returning to himself. Over and over, no matter what happened around him, he came back to this. What is the right thing for me to do right now, given who I have decided to be? Not given how I feel, not given what I deserve, given who I have decided to be.
That's a completely different question.
Think about it this way. A carpenter doesn't stop being a carpenter because a piece of wood is difficult. The difficulty is part of the work. It doesn't change what he is. He picks up a different tool. He tries a different angle. But he stays at the bench because leaving the bench would mean becoming someone else entirely. Marcus Aurelius stayed at the bench, not because Faustina was easy, not because the marriage was simple, but because, in his mind, the commitment wasn't really about her. It was about the man he had chosen to be. And that man, the one he kept returning to in those private pages, that man didn't define himself by whether his circumstances were comfortable. For the first time, there's a name for what his gut already knew. Staying isn't a weakness. Staying can be the most deliberate thing a man ever does. But here's the part nobody says out loud. Some men stay, and they stay well. They stay with intention. They stay as the man they decided to be. And that staying becomes something solid, something they can stand on. And some men stay, but they disappear while doing it. They're physically present. They show up. They pay the bills. They fix what breaks. They sit at the dinner table. But somewhere inside, they checked out a long time ago, and they call that commitment. They point to the years as evidence. Look how long I've stayed. But staying and being present are not the same thing. That's the thing Marcus Aurelius understood that most men never fully confront. He didn't just remain in the marriage. He remained in himself, inside it. He kept returning to who he was, every morning. Those private pages, that conversation with himself, not running from the difficulty, not numbing out. Actually there, and that's the harder question. Not whether you stay or leave. Are you actually here? Because a man can give 20 years to something and never really show up once, and deep down, he knows it. He knows the difference between enduring and being present, between surviving a commitment and actually living inside one. That weight you carry, the one that doesn't have a clean name. Sometimes it's not the relationship that's heavy. It's the distance between who you are and who you meant to be inside it. That's what hurts, and that's what most men never say. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD. No resolution, no perfect ending. The wars on the border were still going. The whispers about Faustina never fully stopped. He left the world the same complicated place he found it. But somewhere in those private pages, the ones he never planned for anyone to read, there's a line that stays with you. He wrote that each morning he returned to himself, not to his feelings, not to mention whether things were going well, just back to himself, back to the man he had decided to be. He did that until the last day he had. Tonight, somewhere, a man is sitting in a kitchen after the house has gone quiet. Same question he's been carrying. And I don't know what the right answer is for his life. Nobody does. But I know this. The question, should I stay or should I go, will still be there tomorrow. And the day after. It doesn't resolve just because you keep asking it. The only question that actually moves anything is the one Marcus Aurelius kept asking himself in the dark. Who am I going to be today? Not tomorrow. Not when things get better. Today, in this house, with this life, carrying this weight. That's it. That's the whole thing.